Welcome to the HSC Alliance MasterClass Series. My name is Tieman. I am the CEO of HSC Alliance. A very good morning, afternoon, or evening. May peace be upon you. We discuss different halal business management topics in this masterclass series, brought to you by different halal experts. In this masterclass, I will be covering the topic of halal risk management. If you do not want to miss any new HSC Alliance masterclasses, it's important to like and subscribe to this channel. If you want to join a live masterclass, please allow HSC Alliance on LinkedIn, Instagram, or Blue Sky for registration. Let's make a start. I will be covering the topic of halal risk management today. So halal risk management is all about the management of risks for a brand owner supply chain. I will be covering the topics of halal integrity, risks in the halal supply chain, halal risk control, halal supply chain risk profile, and also the HSC Alliance halal supply chain rating. It's good when we start talking about the topic of halal integrity risks. It's good to understand, to start with a helicopter view. So I use therefore the model I developed when I started with my PhD. I call that the evolution of halal. Halal is not static, it's moving, it's dynamic, and in an evolution from a Muslim-owned company, stage 1, to a halal product, halal supply chain, and halal value chain. In a Muslim-owned company, stage 1, the consumer is buying from another Muslim, and with that transaction, there's a level of trust because the seller is also a Muslim, therefore the products should be halal. In case the product is not halal, that is a sin of the seller and not a sin of the buyer. This is still valid in countries where there is no halal certification body available, or in cases where a producer or restaurant owner decides not to get halal certified. Luckily, we have in many Muslim majority countries, but also non-Muslim countries, we have a halal certification body that is doing product certification or outlet certification. That is stage 2. Stage 3 is the halal supply chain, where halal is extended throughout the supply chain from the source up to the point of consumer purchase. Indonesia is a good example in this area, as Indonesia is mandating halal certification under Law 33, not only for the producer, but in fact for the entire supply chain, including logistics service providers, including distributors and suppliers. So throughout the supply chain, they are implementing that in stages, start already for food, excluding imports from October 2024, and they will be implementing further regulation, including imports for food, this October 2026, but also cosmetics from this October 2026, and for pharmaceuticals in phases for the year 2026 onwards. So that is the supply chain where halal needs to be extended from the beginning until the end of the supply chain. Stage 4 is the halal value chain, which is still, in fact, future music, where you also incorporate other Islamic values in the value chain, including, but not limited to, Islamic finance and also Sharia compliant insurance, amongst others. What we see that those halal requirements are extending towards the supply chain, and also the value chain, which is important, in fact, driven to a large extent by the Muslim consumer needs and wants, that accelerating this through elements such as social media. It's important that halal certification is not considered the end goal for the halal industry. In fact, it's similar like a driving license. It's important to get a driving license if you want to drive a motorbike or car, and important to keep your driving license. But the end goal of the driving license is not to get the driving license. The end goal is driving a nice car. So the end goal of halal should not be considered, the target should not be considered the halal certificate. It is building a strong halal reputation for a brand owner and further developing a strong halal DNA. And developing a strong halal DNA takes time. So you need to develop a runway as a brand owner to work on that, and that will take time. A lot of Muslim consumers are asking themselves, is the food really halal? And we at HSC Alliance are looking at the entire supply chain. Are your supply chains really halal? Because that will determine if the food or cosmetics or pharmaceutical are truly halal. The problem with supply chains, I will share with you later, is that supply chains are quite complex. In fact, they're not really a chain, like a one-to-one relationship, but they are, in fact, a supply chain is today more a network where we talk about a one or many-to-one and one-to-many relationships. So the halal integrity of a product, therefore, is a function of the entire supply chain. And in fact, the strength of a halal supply chain is as strong as its weakest link and not as strong as its strongest link. So what is halal integrity all about? So in my book, Halal Business Management, I described halal integrity as the condition of a product being unquestionably halal. So the important critical for the Muslim consumer, but also important for the brand owner to protect the reputation and to protect the sales for the brand owner. So if you talk about the supply chain, it is more a network. So in the center, we have the focal company, brand owner, producer, that is producing halal food, cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, or modest fashion. That brand owner has multiple suppliers. Their suppliers have multiple suppliers. The brand owner has their customers, and these customers also have multiple customers as well. So in this case, you get a complex network. So where are the risks exactly in these supply chains? So important risks are in storage and transportation of, on the sourcing side, upstream of ingredients to a product, but also the primary packaging that is touching the raw materials or the physical products. Secondly, is also the storage and transportation downstream from the brand owner. That can be the final products all the way up to the consumer. Yeah. So transportation and storage are critical areas where there could be risk, contamination risk throughout the supply chain. Also, of course, the actual manufacturing of the product, or in the restaurant where they cook the food. But also we have value adding possibly at different stages. And value adding could be mixing of ingredients, could be areas such as repackaging, could be putting together netting in logistics. So there could be also value adding taking place in different parts of the supply chain. Here is important that halal and non-halal components are not mixed. Another contamination risk in there. Important in a supply chain to consider there are many parties involved. We have suppliers, we have producers, we have distributors, we have different logistics service providers. So there are different handoff points, transition points when a product is given to another party to store, to transport, or to process or value add to a product. It's important that the halal status is maintained throughout the supply chain, so that is not lost in transition, because if the halal status is lost in transition, it could also mean that products will be mixed halal and non-halal. Also, inspection is important. Inspection happens at seaports, airports, at border crossings where customs, but also veterinary services and Ministry of Health could do inspection on cargo. Inspection of cargo is sensitive because the container or truck is being opened. Even boxes are being opened and packaging material is removed to inspect if the products are in right condition or in line with what is documented. But the problem is with inspection that the product will always go through to the end destination. So if products are opened up, packaging material is removed, there is a potential contamination risks. Also, the point of consumer purchase is important. That's the last part of the supply chain in contact with the consumer. So if you talk about a supermarket item, is the consumer walking in the supermarket, picking up the product out of the shelf and going for payment. If we talk about the restaurant, is the consumer sitting in the restaurant ordering a product. If it's online ordering, the point of consumer purchase is at receiving of the package from the delivery person. So all of these are contact moments with the consumer, the person, and the last part of the supply chain delivery, which can be inspected and which can also be recorded through telephone, a photo, or video, and therefore very sensitive from a reputation point of view. So what are some of the strategies to address risks in the halal supply chain? From our perspective, it's halal integrity by design and not by traceability. Sure, there are a lot of technologies available that can put cameras or can do online tracking and tracing, but the foundation of integrity in a halal supply chain is by design, by putting proper processes and procedures in place. Also, it's important to look at who are the partners I'm working with in a halal supply chain. So the choice of suppliers, the choice of distributors, about value-added logistics providers, and even customers or e-fulfillment companies, so companies that are doing the sales of e-commerce products and the delivery. You have to be very careful in the appointment of supply chain partners. The wrong partners might result in issues from a halal risk point of view for supply chains. When you want to get halal certified, you need to establish a so-called halal assurance blueprint, a halal assurance system, and HAS also known. In the halal assurance system, I often only see two halal control points, is manufacturing and on procurement, but I hardly see halal control points defined throughout the supply chain. As halal is migrating responsibility towards supply chain and value chain, I think is very timely to address halal control points throughout your supply chain. And the halal supply chain blueprint is therefore a very nice way to document the halal control points throughout your supply chain. Halal is founded on contracts. You're dealing in a supply chain with different parties. The responsibility of halal, the basis of halal integrity is founded on your contracts with your supply chain partners. I often see in contracts with supply chain partners, I conduct a lot of audits for local and multinational brand owners in food, cosmetics, and pharmaceuticals. What I often see, I see an quality, food safety, also known as Tieman clause. In here, we describe the need for hygiene practices, cleanliness, pest management. But what I often see or not comprehensive enough, I don't see a comprehensive halal clause. So next to your quality, food safety, hygiene clause, there should be a proper halal clause that defines the components which are purely halal related. Finally, what is important is to measure halal risk in a supply chain, create key performance indicators. Often the responsibility of halal is delegated to an internal Halal committee, or also known in Indonesia as the Halal management team. Unfortunately, I often see purely operational indicators in there, such as has there been a halal incident? Another example is how many people have been trained on halal. These are operational indicators, but not key performance indicators. And we need key performance indicators to protect the halal integrity, but also the halal reputation for companies. In our audits, where do we see common gaps in the supply chain? First of all, we see for factories that those people there are trained. In order to receive a halal certificate, there will be an audit of the factory by the halal certification body. Unfortunately, that same rigor in training factory staff we not always see with other parts of the supply chain, including the logistics team, distributors, suppliers, retailers. We don't see that same rigor as in a factory as compared to other parties in the supply chain. And this has consequences if the training is not proper. We can make mistakes, not by the producer, but by your supply chain partners in mixing halal and non-halal together, which could impact the halal integrity of supply chains. Also, we don't see a consistent identification and communication of the halal status on freight documents, on cargo labels, on boxes, in IT systems throughout the supply chain. So we see even from a brand owner, we see different practices. So some boxes have a halal logo, some don't. The main way the main method to share the halal status is to identify the halal status on freight documents. So freight documents and a special halal instruction. It's important, a special handling instruction is important to identify the halal status. I normally use the words halal supply chain. So 3 words in English, because supply chains are international. Not everybody speaks the Indonesian language, the Malaysian language, or Arabic. So English is the logistics language, so which should be used as supply chains are global. I also often see that the halal status is not of cargo is not a consolidation requirement in transportation, but also not in storage. Often a big part of transportation and storage is outsourced, so you work with third parties. So if it's not part of the requirements, your logistics service provider will put it together. We also often see that the halal SOPs are very clear, solid in the manufacturing side, but are not there or partly there in other functions such as purchasing, marketing and sales, and logistics. We see that purchasing is making contracts with suppliers, but marketing and sales, they make contracts with distributors and retailers. Logistics department often makes the contract with the logistics service provider for the national distribution center. So contracts are not only made by purchasing. So sometimes you see solid contracts made by purchasing, but then I look at the contract with the distributor or the retailer or the e-commerce provider, and then I see no halal clauses in there. So it's important to be consistent on any contracts you have with supply chain partners. The service industry is also not well prepared for halal issues that we found. So when we do audits in supply chains for brand owners, we always look at the crisis manual. So in case things go wrong, and it can be an halal incident or a non-halal related incident. So you have a crisis manual for those situations. We see often that manufacturers, they have a history of creating solid crisis manuals, but that's not often the case with logistics service providers, distributors or retailers. They are often not that mature in crisis management. In case of an incident or a crisis, you need to depend on your supply chain. A big part of the reverse logistics or collection or returns in case there are incidents is in the hands of the retailer and distributor. So in order to ensure an efficient issue and crisis management, you need to have your supply chain partners at par with you in case of halal incidents. The last gap is that we see a lot of opportunities left on the table, as I would like to call it, as there's a lack of collaboration. So vertical collaboration is collaboration within your own supply chain as a brand owner, your collaboration with your suppliers, supplier of, and your customers and customer of. Your horizontal collaboration is a collaboration with similar companies or even competitors in the industry. And HSC Alliance is an organization. We are a horizontal collaboration organization facilitating horizontal collaboration, which has big advantages in terms of real cost reduction in supply chain, but also better protecting the halal integrity throughout the supply chain and value chain. So when we talk about supply chains, they don't only need to be robust, but they also need to be resilient. So when we talk about robust supply chains, we talk about prevention. So whatever happens to that supply chain, you still have a minimum of halal performance. On the other hand, we also need to create supply chains that are resilient. So in case there is an incident, we can quickly isolate the halal issue and also communicate the right messages internally to your supply chain partners like distributors, like the service providers, suppliers, but also externally to key stakeholders. But also resilience is important to protect and maybe in case also repair the halal reputation of the company. So when we design and address risks, we need to both look at creating a robust supply chain, but also a resilient supply chain. I've been working on risk and reputation management and also measurement. So everything that the brand owner does and also communicates leads to a certain halal reputation. I've been working in my research on creating key performance indicators to measure halal reputation, including halal trust, halal reputation index, and license to operate rating. In one of the next master classes, we will dive deeper into halal reputation management, including how to measure that. The brand owner is identifying and selecting its supply chain partners, and hopefully it is putting proper halal control points throughout the supply chain in place, so it can measure the performance of the halal supply chain. Halal integrity can be measured through different key performance indicators, including halal maturity, which is based on the evolution of halal. You can base that also for an organization and measure the maturity of an organization regarding those 4 stages. Also an important KPI, and I think a leading KPI, is the halal supply chain rating from HSC Alliance, which we have been developing and will be launching this year. We are very excited about this, and I will share with you more insights later. So when we talk about halal risk management and the responsibilities of halal risk management. So risk management, they are responsible for the certification to get halal certified. I've been working with brand owners. They are producing but also importing into Muslim majority countries. And those multinational brand owners from origin from a non-Muslim country said, we do business in this Muslim majority country. Therefore, all of our products need to be halal, not only halal, but also halal certified. And I've been working with brand owners that not only did food, but they also did cosmetics, as well as fabric cleaners, and also liquids to wash dishes. So it was a risk management decision to say everything needs to be halal certified for our portfolio. It was a marketing decision, on the other hand, to show the halal logo or not. but from a risk management point of view, the risk management decided everything needs to be halal certified. Risk management is also responsible for monitoring risk throughout the supply chain. And I've been working with brand owners on halal risk reporting for management, but also for boards of companies. The halal supply chain rating from HSC Alliance is an important KPI to be monitored by companies for continuous improvements. Also, risk management is also responsible in case there is a halal incident, to manage that incident or crisis and lead the organization through this unfortunate risk, the issue or crisis. So how can companies address halal risk management in an organization? Most companies consider the requirement of the halal certification body. They say we need to establish a halal assurance system. And they think is job done. No, the requirements of the halal certification body are the minimum requirements in order to get halal certified, to be allowed to be active in the halal industry, to claim your company is halal certified. The halal assurance system is the minimum condition, the requirement in order to be halal certified. However, if you want to be active in exports, if you want to be working in global halal industries, it's too risky just to have only a halal assurance system. We need to have additional building blocks. So what are these building blocks? You need to have a risk prevention in place. Secondly, you need to have a response management, also known as mitigation, in place. And finally, in case there is an incident and it becomes a crisis, you also need to have a recovery in place to repair your reputation and social capital of the brand. Let's dive deeper in each of those components. So prevention is all about preparing an organization to reduce the halal supply chain vulnerabilities in order to create a robust supply chain. So whatever happens, and base halal supply chain performance is protected. So we have been working for brand owners to do a halal supply chain assessment. So a risk vulnerability assessment to identify where are the risks in the supply chain and what needs to be done to protect those risks, to make a robust supply chain. So based on that risk vulnerability assessment, you need to create a halal supply chain design. And that might require redesign. It might require saying goodbye to some suppliers, saying goodbye to some distributors or some logistics service providers that are not able to protect solid the halal integrity. So it's redesigning your supply chain to create a robust supply chain. It's also working on collaboration in the supply chain. And HSC Alliance is an important organization in order to create a robust supply chain for brand owners. You need to collaborate. And HSC Alliance can be an important partner to realize that. Finally, you need to establish key performance indicators to monitor the performance of halal integrity of your supply chain. HSC Alliance, the halal supply chain rating, is an important KPI that should be part of your monitoring of the integrity of halal supply chains. The second component to put in place is mitigation. So in case there is a halal incident, what to do? That's all what mitigation is about. You want to isolate the halal issue and also minimize the impact that the halal issue can have on your supply chain, in particular the Muslim consumer that's expecting an unquestionably halal product. The first step in mitigation, in case there is an incident, is to investigate if this is an halal issue or non-halal issue. If it is a halal issue, it's important to establish a cross-functional team that is managing the halal incident with representatives, of course, from the internal halal committee, the halal management team, and other key divisions such as procurement, supply chain, marketing, corporate communication, and quality control. So the cross-functional team is important. Then you need to implement, roll out, execute a so-called risk mitigation and communication plan. So what companies need is a proper risk mitigation and communication plan. It doesn't come out of the thin air. It's not given to you by your halal certification body. So this needs to be not only prepared, it also needs to be pre-approved by your management. Because it's Murphy's Law. In case there is a halal incident, it happens over the weekend. And secondly, if you want to call your CEO, he is on the plane to watch a football match in the Americas. He cannot be reached. So that is Murphy's Law. So you need to build a risk mitigation and communication plan before the incident happens, in quietness, and identify not only the actions that need to be done, but also what needs to be communicated and how. What I often see in crisis manuals, that a halal incident is considered the same as a non-halal incident. I find a piece of glass or piece of metal in my product. Your actions and communications can be different from a non-halal incident. And then finally, you need to do monitoring. In case there is a halal incident, it might impact trust. So halal trust, which can be measured through conducting consumer surveys, could be an important key performance indicator to measure and to moderate over a period of weeks. So every week you can do a survey in case of an incident to understand what has been the impact of an incident on the halal trust of my brand. So that is the mitigation. So very important to address all those components in case there is an incident. But it requires to establish a risk mitigation and communication plan so you can quickly react. And quick reacting with the right messaging is essential in order to minimize the impact of an incident and minimize the impact also on the reputation of your brand. So a solid mitigation plan will help you in create a resilient halal supply chain. In case of incident, you quickly react and minimize, isolate the halal incident and minimize the impact that it will snowball in a full-blown crisis. In case the incident becomes bigger, impacting the reputation of your brand and social capital of the brand, there could be need for a plan, a risk recovery and communication plan to repair your reputation. So this is a different plan, and this could cover action to show the Islamic values to your consumer. This could be actions to improve the relationship with certain Muslim communities. So the risk recovery and communication plan is also something that needs to be prepared, also in collaboration with corporate communication. When there is a severe halal incident, it's important that you can resume operations as soon as possible, but also maintain employee support. I've analyzed and also described in my book, Halal Business Management, several cases where things went wrong. And when you talk to those brand owners that went through a very expensive halal incident, issue, and crisis, what is important that you have your team behind you, because many of those employees are also Muslims that might also be concerned about the halal integrity of products, and they might feel personally attacked in case of incidents in that area. Finally, in case there was an incident which went public and and might have impacted your reputation of the company. It's important to evaluate what went wrong. It is a very expensive learning curve. What happens during any halal incident and crisis? This should not go to waste. You should learn from this and so review what happened. How can we strengthen our halal supply chain design to make it more robust? What should we have done instead when the issue started, highlighted? What did we do wrong? What should we have better communicated? So this should be an opportunity to improve your supply chain design, to improve your mitigation and also your recovery plan. An halal incident is very costly. I've seen close by brand owners that lost millions of US dollar in terms of sales in Muslim markets, in terms of reputation, a multifold of those. It's important to put this in place if you want to be successful in Muslim markets. Today, the Muslim consumer is vocal, has access to social media, and just in a matter of few days over the weekend, your brand and your sales can go down very, very quickly. Another area I would like to discuss with you is on the halal supply chain risk profile. So it's important that halal risk management should be rational, but also vary according to the halal supply chain risk profile, resulting in fact in different halal risk intensity for different halal supply chain scenarios. So for example, if your business involved in food products require more extensive risk management as compared to non-food, such as cosmetics, fabric cleaners, or even pharmaceuticals. If your products contain animal products or components, which many products do, like food, but also cosmetics and pharmaceuticals, you need a more extensive risk management as compared to products that do not contain any animal-based products. In Islam, the use of any animal components is basically forbidden, unless it meets a certain very stringent requirements in terms of slaughtering, recognition of the certification body that is supervising the slaughtering. So there are a lot of requirements. So in case there are any animal-based components, even in next to ingredient, even your primary packaging, you have to really need to have proper risk management in place. Yeah. Also, suppliers from non-Muslim countries where halal is not always as well monitored as in Muslim majority countries. You need to have a more extensive risk management in place to better protect the integrity from supplies from non-Muslim countries. So if you can supply it from a Muslim majority country, there are it's less stringent requirements needed regarding risk management. When we talk about logistics service providers and distributors involved in distribution to Muslim majority countries, you require more extensive risk management as compared to a distribution to non-Muslim countries. And finally, brand owners from non-Muslim countries require more extensive risk management as compared to brand owners from Muslim majority countries. Brands from non-Muslim countries are always more on the microscope, also from the Muslim consumer as compared to established brands in Muslim majority countries. So halal risk management will be therefore very important if you are in the food business, if you contain animal-based products, if you're serving Muslim markets, and if you're also using ingredients from non-Muslim countries. So that will determine what is your halal supply chain risk profile, and that will determine also the urgency and the priority of halal risk control for your organization. The last topic I would like to share with you is something I'm very excited about, is the HSC Alliance Halal Supply Chain Rating. HSC Alliance we established last year in January 2025 with the purpose to create an international halal supply chain network in order to realize end-to-end halal supply chains. We are an important platform, a member-based community of industries, where we have members from the food industry, cosmetics, pharmaceuticals, and modern fashion, but also industrial zones, and also various supply chain parties, including logistics service providers that are partner in realizing these end-to-end halal supply chains. We are launching a halal supply chain rating, a 5-star rating, to celebrate halal excellence by brand owners, but also by the various supply chain partners. This is not a halal certificate. A halal certificate is given by a halal certification body. This is a 5-star rating, similar to the Michelin star or Skytrax rating from airports and airlines. We do this rating for brand owners, manufacturers, but also for suppliers, distributors, logistics service providers, seaports, airport, the HoReCa, retail, and also industrial zones. It's important recognition for halal excellence, covering 8 criteria: quality and excellence, the Tieman side, meeting halal standards, the identification of halal throughout the supply chain, halal audits and inspection, both by your organization as well, of course, as your halal certification body, a range of halal services, access to a halal supply chain network, including transportation and storage, the use of Islamic finance and Sharia compliant insurance, but also environmental impact. So these are quite comprehensive assessment that will provide that rating for brand owners and their supply chain partners. For more information on HSC Alliance and also on the halal supply chain rating, also view our website. Before we go to the Q&A, I would like to thank you very much for joining this masterclass on halal risk management. I hope this topic is of interest, and I look forward also to meet you in our next masterclass. Our next masterclass will be in the area of Islamic finance. Look forward meeting you there.